Mira pushed through the heavy glass doors of the office building, her laptop bag cutting into her shoulder like it did every night. The security guard barely looked up as she passed. It was almost 10 at night and the street was quieter than usual. She pulled out her phone with fingers that felt numb from typing all day. The rideshare app showed her car was 2 minutes away. Black sedan, license plate ending in 847. She looked up and down the street, squinting at the headlights approaching in the distance. Her feet hurt in those stupid heels she'd worn to the morning meeting. That meeting felt like it happened 3 days ago, not 12 hours. A black car slowed down right in front of her. Mira didn't even think. She just opened the back door and collapsed into the seat with a heavy sigh. The leather was cold against her legs. "Wilson Street, please," she mumbled, already digging in her bag for her earbuds. She wanted nothing more than to close her eyes for the 20-minute ride home. The driver didn't respond. That wasn't unusual. Some drivers were chatty, some weren't. Mira preferred the quiet ones anyway. But then she noticed something odd. The driver was looking back at her through the rearview mirror with this confused expression. And there was someone else in the car, a man sitting in the passenger seat turning around to look at her. Her stomach dropped. I think you have the wrong car," the passenger said. His voice was calm, almost amused. Mira's brain finally caught up with reality. She looked at the phone in her hand. Her actual ride was still 1 minute away. This wasn't her car. This was someone else's car, and she just jumped in like she owned it. "Oh my God," she said, her face going hot with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were my rideshare. I'll get out right now." She reached for the door handle, but the car was already moving. The driver, apparently thinking she was someone they were supposed to pick up, had pulled into traffic. "Wait, we're moving," Mira said, her voice pitching higher. "Can you stop, please? I'm really sorry, this is so embarrassing." The passenger turned fully around in his seat. That's when Mira actually looked at his face. Really looked at him. Her mouth went dry. She knew this face. Everyone knew this face. It was plastered on magazine covers, news websites, and business podcasts. Julian Hart. The Julian Hart. The guy who built that tech company from nothing and was now worth something like $40 billion. The same Julian Hart whose new artificial intelligence system had been all over the news for the past week. This couldn't be happening. "It's fine," Julian said, and he was definitely holding back a smile. "Robert, can you pull over when it's safe?" The driver, Robert, apparently nodded. But the next intersection had a red light, and then there was a bus blocking the right lane, and then they were somehow on the bridge already. The city traffic had its own rhythm, and stopping wasn't as simple as just stopping. Mira wanted to disappear. She wanted the leather seat to swallow her whole. "I'm really, really sorry," she said again. "I wasn't paying attention, long day." "That's not an excuse, I know, but I'm sorry." "How long was your day?" Julian asked. He didn't sound annoyed. He sounded genuinely curious. Mira blinked. "What? You said long day."
"How long?"
I got to the office at 7 this morning. Left just now, so 15 hours? No, wait. 16 if you count the 20 minutes I spent crying in the bathroom after my boss yelled at me about the quarterly report. She had no idea why she just said that. You don't tell strangers about crying in bathrooms, especially not billionaire strangers whose cars you've accidentally invaded. But Julian just nodded like she'd said something totally normal. "What do you do?" The traffic was heavy. Robert was still trying to find a place to pull over, but Manhattan at night was like a puzzle with no solution. Cars everywhere, horns honking, delivery trucks blocking entire lanes. "I work in marketing," Mira said. "Well, I work at a marketing firm. But what I really want to do is start my own company. I've been working on this idea for 2 years now, trying to save enough money to actually launch it." "What's the idea?" She looked at him carefully. Was he making fun of her? But his expression was completely serious. Open even. "It's probably boring to you," she said. "Try me." Something about sitting in a stranger's car, something about the anonymity of the dark back seat and the city lights sliding past the windows, made her tongue loose. Or maybe it was just exhaustion. Maybe after 16 hours of holding everything together, she didn't have the energy to pretend anymore. "I want to create a platform that connects small businesses with regular people who want to invest small amounts of money," she said, "like not millionaires or venture capital firms. Just normal people with a few $100s who believe in a local bakery or a new coffee shop or someone's handmade jewelry business. Everyone talks about supporting small businesses, But most people don't have thousands of dollars to invest. What if they could invest $50? 100? And actually get a small return if the business succeeds? Julian was quiet for a moment. Mira's cheeks burned. She just pitched her half-baked business idea to one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, while sitting in his car uninvited. Could this night get any worse? That's not boring, Julian said finally. That's actually really interesting. What's stopping you? Money, Mira said with a dry laugh. Ironic, right? I need money to build a platform about money. I've been trying to save, but rent in this city costs basically everything I make. And building an app isn't cheap, and I can't code it myself, so I'd need to hire developers. And then there's legal stuff because anything involving investments has regulations and... She trailed off. She was rambling now. Definitely rambling. And investors want proven track records, Julian finished for her. They want you to already be successful before they'll help you become successful. Exactly, Mira said louder than she meant to. Sorry, it's just, yeah, exactly that. I've pitched to 3 different investor groups in the past year. They all said the same thing. Great idea, but you're too young, too inexperienced, too unknown. Come back when you've already built something. But how am I supposed to build something with no money? Robert finally found a gap in traffic and pulled the car to the curb. They were about 10 blocks from where Mira had gotten in. Her phone buzzed. Her actual rideshare driver probably confused about where she'd gone. This is my fault, Julian said. I was supposed to meet my assistant at that building, but I gave her the wrong address. You got in because you were supposed to. Just wrong car, right place. Mira grabbed her bag, ready to escape this disaster. Well, thanks for not calling the police on me or something. And sorry again. Wait, Julian said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a wallet. For a horrifying second, Mira thought he was going to offer her money, like she was some kind of charity case. But instead, he pulled out a plain white business card, not the fancy company logo kind, just a simple card with a name and a phone number printed in black. Send me your pitch, he said, holding the card out to her. Mira stared at it. What? Your investment platform idea. Send me a proper pitch. Business plan, financial projections, whatever you've got. This number goes directly to me. Not an assistant, not a secretary. Me. She took the card like it might burn her fingers. Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking? He didn't. He looked completely serious. Mira got out of the car in a daze. She stood on the sidewalk, watching the black sedan merge back into traffic and disappear around a corner. The card was still in her hand, solid and real. She looked down at it. Just a name and a number. No company logo, no fancy title. Like he wanted people to reach him without all the corporate barriers. Her phone buzzed again. Her rideshare was canceled. She'd have to order another one, but Mira barely noticed. She was already opening her laptop bag, pulling out her worn notebook where she'd scribbled ideas and plans and dreams for 2 years. Her hand was shaking as she flipped through pages of crossed-out calculations and revised strategies. She had 3 days, she decided. 3 days to turn 2 years of scattered thoughts into something real, something good enough to send to Julian Hart. The impossibility of what just happened was starting to sink in. She'd gotten into the wrong car and somehow ended up with the opportunity she'd been desperately chasing for years. Mira finally ordered another rideshare. As she waited, she kept touching the business card in her pocket, making sure it was real. Making sure she hadn't imagined the whole thing. This was insane. This was impossible. This might actually be her chance. Mira didn't sleep that night. Not really. She dozed off around 4 in the morning for maybe an hour, then jerked awake with her laptop still open on her chest and her neck cramped from the weird angle. Her roommate, Kelly, found her the next morning surrounded by empty coffee mugs and printed spreadsheets covering every inch of their tiny kitchen table. Did you sleep at all? Kelly asked, staring at the chaos. I met Julian Hart last night, Mira said, not looking up from her screen. Sure you did, and I had dinner with the president. I'm serious. Mira held up the business card. I got in his car by accident. He gave me this. He wants to see my pitch. Kelly took the card, examined it front and back, then looked at Mira like she'd grown a second head. This is real. I know. This is actually real. I know. For 3 days, Mira barely left the apartment. She called in sick to work, which she never did. Her boss was furious, but Mira didn't care. This was more important than any quarterly report or client presentation. She rewrote her business plan 4 times. She created financial projections, market analysis, competitor research. She designed mock-ups of what the app interface could look like. She reached out to an old friend from college who'd become a lawyer and begged him to explain investment regulations in simple terms. On the third night, at 11:30, she finally pressed send on the email. Then she immediately panicked and wanted to unsend it, but it was too late. It was done. She got a response in 20 minutes. Not from Julian, from someone named Patricia, who introduced herself as his executive assistant. The email was brief and professional. Mr. Hart would like to schedule a meeting. Would Tuesday at 2 o'clock work? Tuesday was 4 days away. Mira spent those 4 days feeling like she might throw up at any moment. Kelly helped her pick out an outfit. Nothing too fancy that looked like she was trying too hard, but nothing too casual that looked like she didn't care. They settled on dark pants and a simple blue blouse that Kelly said made her look professional but approachable. "You've got this," Kelly said on Tuesday morning, fixing Mira's collar. "You've been working on this idea forever. You know it inside and out. Just be yourself. What if being myself isn't good enough? Then he wouldn't have given you his personal number." The building where Julian's company was headquartered looked like something from the future. All glass and steel, with trees somehow growing on different floors like someone had stacked parks on top of each other. Security took her name and gave her a visitor badge. Patricia met her in the lobby, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficient manner. She led Mira to an elevator that required a special key card to access certain floors. "Mr. Hart is running a few minutes behind," Patricia said as they rode up. Board meeting went long. "Can I get you water? Coffee?" "Water would be great," Mira said. Her throat felt like sandpaper. The conference room Patricia led her to had windows overlooking the entire city. Mira had never been this high up before. She could see the river, the bridges, the tiny cars moving like ants far below. She set up her laptop and pulled out her printed presentation. Her hands were shaking. She shoved them in her lap. The door opened and Julian walked in, followed by 2 other people. A woman with silver hair pulled back tight and a younger man carrying a tablet. "Mira, good to see you again," Julian said, shaking her hand. His grip was firm but not overwhelming. "This is Victoria Chen. She leads our investment division. And this is Ben. He's with our development team. I asked them to sit in. Hope that's okay." "Of course," Mira said, even though her heart was now pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. They all sat down, 3 successful, powerful people on one side of the table, Mira alone on the other side with her printed papers and her 2-year-old laptop that sometimes froze during video calls. "Whenever you're ready," Julian said. Mira took a breath. Then she started talking. She told them about growing up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, how her aunt had tried to open a flower shop but couldn't get a bank loan because she didn't have collateral, how her aunt's friends had wanted to help, but none of them had thousands of dollars to invest. How the shop never opened, and her aunt went back to working at the grocery store. She explained her platform, how it would work, how people could browse local businesses looking for small investments, how the businesses would have to meet certain criteria to be listed, how the returns would be structured, how it could change the way communities supported each other. Victoria asked hard questions. Really hard questions. About regulations, about risk assessment, about how they'd verify business legitimacy, about what happened if a business failed and investors lost their money. Mira answered every single one. Sometimes she had to say, "I don't know yet, but here's how I'd figure it out." But she never made up an answer. She was honest when she didn't have something worked out fully. Ben asked about the technical side. What platforms it would run on. How they'd handle security. How they'd process payments. Again, Mira was honest. "I'm not a developer," she said. "I can't build this alone. I'd need a team. But I've researched the technology we'd need, and I have connections with some freelance developers who've expressed interest in the project." Julian had been quiet the whole time, just listening. Now he leaned forward. "Why you?" he asked. "Why are you the right person to build this?" It was the question Mira had been dreading and preparing for in equal measure. "Because I understand what it feels like to be on the outside," she said. "Every investor I've pitched to in the past year lives in a completely different world than most people. They talk about risk and returns in market sectors. But they don't talk about Maria who makes the best tamales in the neighborhood and wants to open a restaurant. Or about the guy who fixes computers out of his garage and could hire 2 employees if he just had enough to rent a proper shop. Those people aren't risks or returns. They're people trying to build something meaningful, and the other people in their communities want to help them. But the current system isn't built for that. It's built for people who already have money to make more money. She paused, realized she was getting emotional, and tried to pull it back. I'm the right person because I actually care about this, she continued. Not just as a business opportunity, as a way to change something broken. And because I'm willing to work harder than anyone else to make it happen. The room was quiet for a moment. Victoria and Ben exchanged a look that Mira couldn't read. Julian stood up. Can you give us a minute? Mira's stomach sank. Of course. She stepped out into the hallway and Patricia materialized with a gentle smile. Can I get you anything? Just a time machine to undo whatever I just said wrong, Mira muttered. Patricia laughed. You'd be surprised how many people say that after meetings with Mr. Hart. 5 minutes felt like 50. Finally, the door opened and Julian gestured for her to come back in. Here's the thing, he said once she sat down. Your idea is good. Really good. But it needs work. A lot of work. Mira nodded, trying not to let her disappointment show. So here's what I'm proposing, Julian continued. I'm not going to write you a check and send you on your way. That's not how this works. If I invest in you, I'm investing time too. I want to mentor you through this. We'll meet weekly. You'll work with Ben's team on the technical side. Victoria will help you understand the investment landscape and regulations, but the company will be yours. Your vision, your decisions. We're just here to help you avoid the mistakes we've all made. Mira wasn't sure she'd heard him correctly. You want to mentor me? I was 23 when I started my first company, Julian said. I made every mistake possible. Lost money, lost partners, almost lost everything twice. I got lucky a few times when I should have failed. But I also had people who believed in me when they probably shouldn't have. This is me paying that forward. I don't know what to say, Mira said honestly. Say yes, Victoria said with a small smile. Or say no. But don't say maybe. Yes, Mira said immediately. Yes, absolutely yes, Ben grinned. Welcome to the hardest work of your life. He wasn't kidding. The next morning, Mira got an email with so many attachments it took 3 minutes to download them all. Reading lists, contact information, legal documents. A schedule of meetings for the next month. There was also a contract. Seed funding of $200,000 in exchange for 15% equity in her company. Mira read it 3 times, then had Kelly read it, then paid her lawyer friend $200 to look it over. This is extremely fair, he told her over the phone. Honestly, suspiciously fair. Most seed investors would want 30 or 40% for this amount. Are you sure this is real? I think so, Mira said. Sign it before he changes his mind. The first meeting with Victoria was scheduled for Monday morning. Mira showed up 15 minutes early with a notebook and every question she could think of. Victoria didn't waste time. You know what your biggest problem is? She asked as soon as Mira sat down. Lack of experience? No. Your biggest problem is that you think small. Victoria pulled up Mira's financial projections on the big screen. You're planning to launch in one city. Why? 3 months into building her platform, Mira learned that having money and mentorship didn't magically make everything easy. If anything, it made things harder because now she had no excuses. Every problem was hers to solve. She quit her job at the marketing firm. Her boss told her she was making a huge mistake, that she'd come crawling back within 6 months. Mira smiled politely and cleaned out her desk. Kelly helped her carry the box of belongings home, and they celebrated with cheap wine and expensive takeout. To burning bridges, Kelly said, raising her glass. To building something better, Mira corrected. The first real fight happened 3 weeks after she quit. Ben's development team had created a prototype of the app and Mira hated it. It's too complicated, she said, looking at the screen full of menus and options. My aunt wouldn't understand how to use this. Most people wouldn't. It needs to be comprehensive, Ben argued. Users need options. They need to filter by industry, by investment size, by return potential, by risk assessment. That requires menus. But it doesn't require 17 different screens just to sign up, Mira shot back. People will give up before they even start. Ben's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we start over. Make it simple. Really simple. 3 steps to sign up. 1 screen to browse businesses. 1 button to invest. We can add complexity later, but the core experience has to be easy. Do you know how long it took us to build this? I know, and I'm sorry, but it's not right. They went back and forth for an hour. Finally, Ben said he needed to step out. Mira sat alone in the conference room, wondering if she'd just ruined everything. Maybe she didn't know what she was talking about. Maybe she should just accept what the experts created. Julian appeared in the doorway. Heard you and Ben had a disagreement, he said. I think I made him angry. Good, that means you're doing your job? Julian sat down across from her. Let me tell you something. If you agree with everything everyone tells you, you're not a founder, you're a puppet. Ben is brilliant at development, but this is your company, your vision. If you think something's wrong, you speak up. Even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. What if I'm wrong? Then you'll learn. But being afraid of being wrong is worse than actually being wrong. Make the call. Live with the consequences. That's what leadership is. Ben came back 20 minutes later. You're right, he said without preamble. We over-engineered it. Give me 2 weeks. We'll make it simple. Those 2 weeks turned into 4, but when they showed her the new version, Mira nearly cried. It was beautiful, clean, intuitive, exactly what she'd envisioned. This is perfect, she whispered. No, it's not, Ben said with a grin, but it's a good start. The next challenge was finding businesses to feature on the platform. Mira spent weeks driving around the city, walking into small shops and restaurants, explaining her idea to owners who looked at her with suspicion. So you want me to give you money to list my business? One restaurant owner asked. No, we don't charge listing fees, Mira explained for the 20th time that day. We take a small percentage only if you successfully get funded. Think of us like a bridge between you and people who want to invest in local businesses. Sounds like a scam. I promise it's not. Here, this is my information. This is the company backing us. You can look us up. Most people thanked her and said they'd think about it, which was polite code for no. But some people listened. Some people were interested. Slowly, painfully, she started building a list of businesses willing to try the platform. Victoria insisted Mira practice her pitch constantly. Not the pitch to investors, the pitch to business owners, the pitch to potential users, the pitch to journalists. Every pitch was different and they all mattered. You can't just talk about features, Victoria said during one practice session. Features don't make people care. Stories make people care. Tell them about your aunt's flower shop. Tell them about Maria's tamales. Make them see the people behind the idea. Mira practiced in front of mirrors, in front of Kelly, in front of anyone who would listen. Her voice got stronger. Her message got clearer. 6 months after that night in Julian's car, they were ready to launch a beta version. 20 small businesses signed up to be featured. They'd recruited 200 early users willing to test the platform. Mira barely slept the night before launch. She kept refreshing her email, checking the servers, making sure everything was working. At 3 a.m, Kelly found her pacing in the living room. It's going to work, Kelly said firmly. What if it doesn't? Then you fix it. But stop acting like failure is the worst thing that could happen. You know what's worse? Never trying at all. Launch day was chaos. The servers crashed twice in the first hour. The payment processing had a bug that Ben had to fix on the fly. 3 business owners called Mira panicking about how to upload their information. But by the end of the day, something incredible had happened. 17 investments had been made. Real people putting real money into real businesses. Small amounts mostly. $50 here, $100 there. But it was happening. The thing she'd imagined for 2 years was actually real and working. The first business to get fully funded was a woman named Rita, who made custom furniture. She needed $3,000 to buy better tools and rent workshop space. It took 4 days, but 47 different people invested amounts ranging from $25 to $200. When Rita called Mira crying happy tears, Mira cried too. I can't believe this is real, Rita said. I've been saving for 3 years trying to get enough for proper equipment. And now I can actually do this. I can actually grow my business. Don't you earn this, Mira said. People believed in you. No, you made this possible. Thank you. Thank you so much. After the call, Mira sat at her desk for a long time, just staring at Rita's profile on the platform. The little progress bar that showed 100% funded. The comments from investors saying they loved her work and couldn't wait to see what she created. This was why she'd built this. Not for the money or the success, for moments like this, for people like Rita. But not everyone was happy about the platform's success. Mira started getting calls from traditional investors who felt threatened. Articles appeared online criticizing the platform, calling it risky and unsustainable. One particular venture capital firm wrote an op-ed in a major business publication, arguing that amateur investors shouldn't be allowed to fund businesses because they didn't understand the risks. Mira read the article and felt sick. They made her platform sound dangerous, irresponsible, like she was tricking people out of their money. Don't read the comments, Kelly warned, but Mira read them anyway. Half the people agreed with the article. The other half defended her platform, but some of their defenses were just as harsh toward the critics. She walked into Julian's office without an appointment. Patricia tried to stop her, but Julian waved her in. "Did you see the article?" Mira asked. "I saw it. They're making it sound like I'm running some kind of scam, like I'm hurting people." Julian gestured for her to sit down. "When I launched my first company, a competitor told the press I was too young to know what I was doing, that I was wasting investor money on impossible technology, that I'd crash and burn within a year. What did you do?" "I proved them wrong." He pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward her. It was an email draft, a response to the op-ed written by Julian himself, defending Mira's platform and explaining why traditional investment models shut out too many good businesses. "You wrote this?" Mira asked. "I was going to send it to the publication today, but then I thought maybe you should respond yourself. In your own words. Show them you're not just some kid with a cute idea. Show them you're a businesswoman who knows exactly what she's doing." Mira stared at the screen. "What if I make it worse?" "You won't. Trust yourself. You've been doing this for months now. You know your platform better than anyone. So tell them. Tell them why you're right and they're wrong." Mira went home and wrote for 4 hours straight. She wrote about her aunt and Rita and all the other people whose stories weren't considered worthy by traditional investors. She wrote about how keeping investment opportunities only for wealthy people didn't protect regular folks from risk. It just kept them from building wealth at all. She wrote about transparency and education and community. She sent it to the business publication at midnight. They published it the next day. The article went viral. Suddenly everyone was talking about Mira's platform. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. But they were talking about it. And that meant more businesses signing up, more investors joining, more momentum building. Victoria pulled Mira aside after a meeting. "You're handling the pressure well," she said. "Better than I expected. It doesn't feel like I'm handling it well. It feels like I'm drowning most days. That's called growth. Get used to it." The beta test was supposed to last 3 months. They extended it to 6 because they kept finding things to improve. Every week brought new challenges. A business owner who didn't understand the terms. An investor who wanted a refund before the return period. Technical glitches. Communication breakdowns. 1,000 small fires that Mira had to put out one by one. But there were good things too. More businesses getting funded. More investors seeing it too. San Francisco felt like a different planet. Everything was expensive. Everyone walked fast and talked about funding rounds and valuations and tech terms that Mira had only recently learned herself. She felt like an imposter in her department store blazer, while everyone else wore designer clothes or deliberately casual hoodies that somehow cost $300. The conference center was massive. Glass and chrome everywhere, with screens showing company logos and speaker names scrolling past. Mira saw her own name on one of those screens and almost turned around to go back to the hotel. Instead, she checked in and got her speaker badge. The woman at the registration desk smiled like this was all perfectly normal. Like Mira belonged here. She had 2 days before her presentation. 2 days to attend other talks and network and try not to panic. Julian had flown in too, but he was busy with his own meetings. Victoria was moderating a panel. Ben hadn't come at all because they needed someone back home monitoring the platform. The first night, there was a networking event. Mira stood in the corner holding a glass of wine she wasn't drinking, watching everyone else laugh and exchange business cards and act like they'd known each other forever. A man approached her. Expensive suit, confident smile. "First conference?" he asked. "That obvious?" "You have the look." "I remember my first one, terrifying." He held out his hand. "Trevor, I run a venture capital firm focused on fintech. Mira, I run an investment platform for small businesses." His smile got a little tighter. "Oh, you're the one speaking Thursday. The community investment thing? That's me. Interesting concept. How's it working out?" There was something in his tone. Not quite dismissive, but close. Mira straightened her shoulders. We've successfully funded over 50 businesses and have 5,000 active users. Our retention rate is 87% and growing. Impressive numbers for a beta. But have you thought about scalability? The regulatory challenges? The liability issues when these small businesses inevitably fail? Some will fail, Mira said evenly. That's the nature of business. But we're transparent about risks. And our model is specifically designed to spread that risk across many small investors, rather than putting all the burden on one or two people. Traditional investment models fail too. They just fail quietly where nobody talks about it. Trevor's expression shifted slightly. Fair point. Well, good luck with your talk. I'll be curious to see how you handle the questions after. He walked away and Mira's hands were shaking. She put down the wine glass before she dropped it. A woman who'd been standing nearby came over. Older, maybe 60, with gray hair and kind eyes. Don't let Trevor get to you. He's been in this industry so long he thinks it's his private club. I'm Helen, by the way. Mira. I know. I've been following your platform. What you're doing is important. The tech world needs more people who remember that technology is supposed to serve real people, not just make rich people richer. They talked for an hour. Helen had started 3 companies herself, sold 2, and now invested in female founders. She gave Mira her card and told her to call if she ever needed advice or just someone to talk to who understood what it was like to be underestimated. The hardest part isn't building the business, Helen said. It's believing you deserve to be here. But you do. Don't forget that. Mira went back to her hotel room and practiced her presentation one more time. Then again. Then a third time until she could recite it in her sleep. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Stop practicing. Get some rest. You've got this. She tried to sleep but kept thinking about Trevor's questions, about liability and regulations and all the things that could go wrong. She'd spent so much time building the platform, but had she really thought through everything? What if she'd missed something crucial? What if she got on that stage and someone asked a question she couldn't answer? At 2 a.m, she gave up on sleep and opened her laptop. She went through every single regulatory document Victoria had made her read. Every piece of research, every contingency plan. By the time the sun came up, her eyes felt like sandpaper, but she felt more prepared. The day of her talk arrived too fast. She was scheduled for 2 p.m. The morning sessions felt endless. She sat through presentations about artificial intelligence and blockchain, and things she only half understood, checking her phone every 5 minutes. Lunch was impossible. She ordered a salad and pushed it around her plate while Kelly sent encouraging texts from back home. At 1:30, she went to the speaker prep room. A tech person hooked up her laptop to test the slides. Everything worked fine. Her hands were still shaking. Julian found her backstage. You look terrified. I am terrified. Good. If you weren't scared, it would mean this didn't matter. But it does matter. So go out there and show them why. He squeezed her shoulder. I'll be in the 3rd row. If you need to focus on something, look at me. The host introduced her. Mira heard her own name echoing through the auditorium. She walked onto the stage on legs that felt like rubber. The lights were bright, so bright she could barely see the audience. Hundreds of people, maybe 1,000, all looking at her. She found Julian in the 3rd row. He gave her a small nod. Mira took a breath and started talking. 2 years ago, my aunt tried to open a flower shop, she began. She had the skills, the business plan, the location picked out. What she didn't have was $20,000 for startup costs. The bank said no. Traditional investors weren't interested. Her dream died before it started. Not because it was a bad idea, but because she didn't know the right people. And I thought, how many other good ideas die the same way? She told the story of that night in Julian's car. The wrong door that led to the right path. The platform they'd built. The businesses they'd helped. Rita and her furniture. A baker who'd expanded from his home kitchen to a real storefront. A woman who'd turned her side business making children's clothes into a full shop with 3 employees. She showed the numbers. Not just the successful businesses, but the failures too. The ones that didn't make it. Because honesty mattered. Transparency mattered. Traditional investors don't want you to see the failures, Mira said. They want you to think they only pick winners. But that's not reality. Reality is messy. Some businesses succeed. Some don't. The difference with our platform is that we spread that risk across a community. We let people invest amounts they can afford to lose, and we let communities decide which businesses they believe in, rather than letting 3 people in a conference room make all the decisions. She talked about the future, about expanding to more cities, about building features that would help successful businesses reinvest in other businesses, about creating a cycle of community support that could change how local economies worked. When she finished, there was a pause. Then applause. Real applause, not just polite clapping. The Q&A session started. The first few questions were softballs, but then someone in the back stood up. Mira recognized the voice before she saw him. "Trevor, you talk about transparency and community," he said. "But aren't you really just taking advantage of unsophisticated investors who don't understand risk? What happens when these small businesses fail and people lose their money? Won't they blame your platform?" The room got quiet. Everyone was watching to see how she'd respond. Mira looked at Julian. He was smiling slightly. "Like he'd expected this. That's a good question," Mira said. "And you're right that it's a risk. But let me ask you something. How many sophisticated investors lost money in the 2008 financial crisis? How many hedge funds failed? How many people who were supposed to be experts made terrible decisions that hurt millions of people? Being sophisticated doesn't prevent failure. It just changes who gets blamed." She saw some people nodding. "Our platform requires every user to complete an education module before they can invest," she continued. "They have to acknowledge the risks. They have to confirm they understand that businesses can fail. We show them historical data. We show them success rates. We give them more information than most traditional investment opportunities provide. So yes, some people will lose money, but they'll lose it with their eyes open, investing in businesses they chose to believe in. And that's different from trusting some expert who acts like they can see the future." Trevor sat down. Someone else raised their hand. Then another. The questions kept coming. Some supportive, some challenging. Mira answered all of them. When the session ended and she walked off stage, her shirt was stuck to her back with sweat. But she'd done it. She'd actually done it. Julian was waiting in the hallway. He didn't say anything. Just hugged her. "That was perfect," he said. "You were perfect. I thought I was going to throw up. You hit it well." Victoria found them and handed Mira a bottle of water. 37 people have already emailed asking for more information about the platform. And that's just in the last 20 minutes. This is going to be big, Mira. Really big. The rest of the conference was a blur. People kept approaching her. Some wanted to invest, some wanted to partner, some just wanted to tell her their own stories about small businesses in their communities that needed help. Helen found her at the closing reception. "You proved my point," she said. "You belonged here, and now everyone knows it." On the flight home, Mira finally let herself relax. She'd faced her fear, and 18 months after getting into the wrong car, Mira stood backstage at another conference. But this time was different. This time she wasn't nervous. This time she knew exactly who she was and why she was here. The platform had grown beyond anything she'd imagined that night when Julian handed her his business card. They were now operating in 37 cities across 12 states. Over 10,000 small businesses had been listed. More than 3,000 had received full funding. The platform had 250,000 active users, but numbers weren't what made Mira proud. It was the stories, the emails she got every week from business owners whose lives had changed. The messages from investors who'd made money but said the real return was knowing they'd helped someone's dream come true. Kelly had quit her job 6 months ago to work for the platform full-time, managing community outreach. Ben's development team had expanded to 12 people. Victoria still advised, though now Mira made most decisions herself. Julian watched from the wings as she prepared to go on stage. This conference was different from San Francisco. This one was about social entrepreneurship and community development. These were her people. "Still get nervous?" Julian asked. "A little. But it's different now. It's excitement, not fear. You've come a long way from the woman who accidentally got in my car." Mira smiled. "Best mistake I ever made." "Wasn't a mistake. Was exactly what was supposed to happen." She walked onto the stage to genuine applause. The moderator welcomed her and dove right into questions about scaling community-focused businesses without losing the mission. Mira talked about the challenges, about the fraud that had almost destroyed them but ended up making them stronger, about learning to balance growth with authenticity, about the constant tension between business needs and community values. The thing people don't understand about social entrepreneurship, Mira said, is that you can't just care your way to success. Caring matters, but you also need solid business practices, fair pricing, good technology, legal compliance. The mission drives you, but strategy sustains you. After her talk during the lunch break, a young woman approached. She couldn't have been more than 23, wearing worn sneakers and a nervous expression that Mira recognized instantly. "Hi," the woman said, clutching a folder to her chest. "My name is Priya. I loved your presentation. I was wondering if maybe I could talk to you for just a minute about an idea I have." Mira saw herself in this woman. The hope, the uncertainty, the desperate need for someone to just listen. "Of course," Mira said. "Tell me about it." They sat in the hallway while conference attendees streamed past. Priya pulled out papers covered in handwritten notes and rough sketches. "I work at a call center," Priya said. "But what I really want to do is start a platform that teaches job skills to people who can't afford traditional education. Like practical skills, how to interview, how to write a resume, how to negotiate salary, all the stuff nobody teaches you but you're expected to just know." "That's a great idea," Mira said. And she meant it, really, because I've tried to get funding. I've talked to 3 different investor groups. They all said the same thing. "Great idea, but I'm too young, too inexperienced. I don't have an MBA. I've never run a business before. They said to come back when I have traction, but I can't get traction without money." Priya's voice cracked slightly. "I'm sorry. I'm probably wasting your time." Mira pulled out her phone. "What's your email?" "What? Your email address?" "Give it to me," Priya stammered it out. Mira typed it into her phone. "I'm going to send you some information," Mira said. "Resources for first-time founders. People I know who might be able to help. And I want you to send me your full business plan, not your polished investor pitch. I want to see what you really think in your own words. Why this matters, who it helps, what you're trying to build. Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Send it to me by the end of the week." Priya's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "I do, actually. Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. This is me paying that forward." After Priya left, Mira sat in the hallway for a few minutes. "Julian found her there, making promises?" he asked, sitting down beside her. "Maybe. Met a young founder with a good idea. Reminded me of someone," Julian smiled. "You planning to mentor her?" "I think so. If her plan is solid, your platform is doing well. You've got investors asking you to expand faster, board members who want you to focus on growth. You sure you have time for mentoring?" Mira looked at him. "You had time. When you definitely didn't have time. When you were running a billion-dollar company and dealing with your own problems. You still made time for me. That was different." "How?" Julian was quiet for a moment. "It wasn't different. You're right. And I'm proud of you for seeing that." The conference continued. More talks, more networking, more people wanting to discuss partnerships or investments or advice. By the end of the day, Mira's voice was hoarse and her feet hurt, but she felt good. Really good. That night, back in her hotel room, she opened Priya's email. The business plan was attached. It wasn't polished. The formatting was inconsistent and there were spelling errors. But the idea was solid. The passion was real. The need was definitely there. Mira spent 2 hours reading through everything and making notes. Then she drafted an email. She told Priya what was good about her plan. But she also told her what needed work. Where the gaps were, what questions investors would ask. She attached resources. She offered to introduce her to people who could help. She hit send at midnight. 3 months later, Priya's platform launched with seed funding from 2 investors Mira had introduced her to. Mira watched the launch announcement online and felt a swell of pride that surprised her with its intensity. The platform continued growing. New challenges arose constantly. Competition increased. Regulations changed. Technology evolved. Some days were harder than others, but Mira had built something real, something that mattered. One evening, she was working late at the office when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Is this Mira?" An older woman's voice, hesitant. "Yes, this is she. My name is Ruth. I own a small flower shop in Philadelphia. Your platform funded my business 2 years ago. I just wanted to call and say thank you." Mira sat up straight. "You don't need to thank me. You built the business. But you gave me the chance. I tried for 5 years to get a loan. 5 years of banks saying no. And then I found your platform. And 47 people I'd never met believed in me enough to invest. Because of that, I now have 2 locations. I employ 6 people. I'm training my daughter to eventually take over. And none of that would exist without you. After they hung up, Mira sat staring at her computer screen. These calls came occasionally. Business owners reaching out to share their success. Every single one felt like validation that the sleepless nights and stress and fear had been worth it. Kelly stuck her head in the office. You're still here? Go home. You've been working for 14 hours. Just wrapping up. You said that an hour ago. Kelly came in and sat down. Can I tell you something? When you first told me about getting in Julian's car, I thought you were either making it up or it would fall apart in a week. I didn't believe this could actually work. Gee, thanks. No, listen, I was wrong. And I'm really glad I was wrong. Because what you've built is incredible. But more than that, who you've become is incredible. You're not the same person who came home exhausted every night from that marketing job. You found something worth fighting for. And you fought for it. Mira felt her throat get tight. I couldn't have done it without you. You've been here every step. That's what best friends do. Now seriously, go home. The platform will survive if you sleep occasionally. On the drive home, Mira thought about everything that had happened since that night. Getting in the wrong car had felt like the most embarrassing mistake of her life. Now it felt like the moment everything started making sense. The next week, Julian called her into his office. I have news, he said. Good news. What? There's a major investment firm that wants to buy a significant stake in your platform. We're talking enough money to expand nationally, maybe internationally. Mira's heart jumped. Really? Really. They've been watching your progress. They're impressed. But there's a catch. Julian leaned back in his chair. They want you to scale faster. Open in 50 cities within a year. Streamline operations. Potentially change some of the community-focused features to things that generate more profit. So they want me to make it less personal, more corporate. Essentially, yes. Mira thought about Ruth's phone call, about Priya's nervous hope, about the 47 people who'd believed in a flower shop. What do you think I should do? She asked. Julian smiled. I think you already know, and I think you don't need my permission anymore. Mira met with the investment firm. They pitched their vision, growth, expansion, returns. Everything sounded good on paper. We love what you've built, the lead investor said. We just think it could be bigger, better, more efficient. More profitable, you mean? Mira said. Well, yes. That's the goal of business, isn't it? I thought the goal of business was to solve problems, Mira said. To create value. To make things better for people. Profit is important, but it's not the only thing that matters.